YouTube land and all subsequent social media lands, welcome to an all-new video. In this video, we're going to be going over a film from 1979, and as a part of my James Bond-a-thon, getting ready to see the new James Bond film that comes out October 8th. So we're going to get right into that. Before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so don't miss out on this video and the other videos I make and put up. And as always, people, if you enjoy this content and want to check out my other social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, definitely check those out too. And as always, people, let's get right into this. So welcome one and all to an all-new video. So like I was saying before, we're going to be doing a movie review of a James Bond film that came out in 1979. And is the 11th film in the James Bond series. And also is the 4th outing of the great person that plays James Bond in this film as well. So that's really cool as well. So I'm really thrilled about that. But before we get really into the meat of it, this happens to be the James Bond film called Moonraker. Oh yeah, Moonraker. Yeah, so Moonraker, I think out of all the James Bond films, especially even in the late 70s, early 80s, this one is the most sci-fi film of all the James Bond films. And this one definitely, I feel, is probably the most comical, kind of like satirical, like out there type of James Bond film out of all the ones I've seen. But this is probably one of my favorite all-time James Bond film, and I absolutely love it. So it was such a great fun to finally watch this again because it's been so many years since I've seen it. But Moonraker is just a really well done film, I thought. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's just a really well done James Bond film in this series of, films. Now, this film happens to be, of course, directed by Mr. Lewis Gilbert. Oh yeah, Lewis Gilbert. Woo, Lewis Gilbert. Woo, yeah. Woo. So this is the third and final James Bond film that Lewis Gilbert had actually directed. He actually had directed also The Spy Who Loved Me and also You Only Live Twice as well. So this is his third outing directing a James Bond film, and I think he proved that he had really good directing chops, and he gave us this really fun, out there, spy, amazing action flick with some great comedy in it. And I just think that he did a really good job with the film. Now, another film that he actually has directed, I haven't had the pleasure of seeing it, but I have seen the trailer, I have read about it, and it had a really great, English-British cast, from John Hannah to Julie Walters, to I think even Bill Nighy was in it too as well. And the film is called Before You Go. Yeah, Before You Go, which is from 2002. This was actually his final feature film directorial film before he passed away in 2018. I mean, I know it's 16 years, but this is the last film he actually directed. And from what I saw in the trailer and from what I've read, the film looked really fun and really silly and just a really fun, British comedy type of film. With such an all-star cast, what can go wrong? I mean, Julie Walters, John Hannah, all these different actors are just really fun and always great in the other films I've seen them in. So from what I saw in the trailer, this just looks like a really well done film and a really great last outing for Lewis Gilbert. But as I was saying before, I think he did such a great job with Moonraker. I love the elements that he brought to it. I love how he made it very sci-fi-y. I love that he gave it kind of a very comical, satirical feel to it. But also at the same time, for its time, the special effects were done so amazingly well. I mean, everything from the space station to the spaceship to, just the fight sequences and stuff like that were just really well done. And you can see why it garnered or was nominated for a special effects award, because this film really was ahead of its time in 1979. So I thought that he did a great job of really giving us this really classic sci-fi James Bond film as something different in the James Bond field. So this movie has a really great all-star cast. I mean, once again, we have the great master returning as James Bond in this film, of course, to start us off. And that, of course, is Mr. Roger Moore. Oh, yeah, Roger Moore. Woo, Roger Moore. Roger Moore is probably my all-time favorite James Bond character. I think he's my favorite James Bond. It's very close between him and Daniel Craig for me for likeness of the James Bond people that have played James Bond. But Roger Moore was so awesome, I thought, as James Bond. I loved his classicness. I loved how he was such a playboy. I loved that he really essenced who James Bond was, and I thought he did such a great job at it. And, he was no exception in this film. He was so good. He, once again, brought that great, element of who he is as James Bond, but also I loved the comedy elements that he brought to this time playing James Bond, and I love just, how awesome he was in this film, and just how well he encompassed the character, and gave us even more than he had in the previous films that he started, because he even gave it a little bit more of, a playboy factor in this one, I feel. I think out of all the James Bond that he has played, I feel this film was one of the first in his series that he's done that he really was a super ladies man. I mean, he had several different actresses that he had to portray, being and having sexual relations with throughout this whole film, and I thought this was the first time you really saw him with so many different women, and I just thought he did such a great job of portraying that, and giving us this really, really big and, tight performance of who James Bond was. Because James Bond, if you look at the fictional character's description and all that, this guy is a playboy. He basically is an adulterer, basically, if you think about it. He sleeps with anybody. And that's, in this film, I thought Roger Moore did a great job of portraying that the most out of all the James Bond films he had played previously. It just was a really well done performance, I thought. And I loved that, he really gave such a great performance, and just hands down, once again, just a great action performance too as well, with his stunts and stuff like that. And I just loved his, interaction with everyone in the film as well. But another great film that he was actually in, he did a voiceover for the film, which actually was kind of a parody of George Lazenby's James Bond character in his film that he did the one time he played James Bond in this awesome satirical comedy family film that I think is a fantastic sequel. I think it's just a fantastic film and doesn't get enough credit for how fun it was, and just how, it was supposed to be dumb. It was supposed to be super hilarious and, stupid. And that's what made this film so good. And that, of course, is the film called Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore. Oh, yeah. Revenge of Kitty Galore. Oh my gosh, so he plays a character at one of the cats called Tad Lazenby. And he's supposed to be a tabby cat. And it's so hilarious because he's supposed to be portraying George Lazenby's character, version James Bond, in his film. And it was absolutely freaking hilarious. And Roger did such a great job of portraying this and giving this really great voice performance, and I cracked up the whole time, every time he was on a scene. And I just thought he did such a great job, and it was just a great homage to George Lazenby and just the James Bond films in general. And I thought that this is such an underrated performance, and that people should definitely check it out, because it just is a really fantastic performance by Roger Moore. If you haven't seen Cats and Dogs 2, Revenge of Kitty Galore, definitely check it out for Tad Lazenby and Roger Moore's performance, because he just did a great job at it. So that brings me to the next actor that was in this film, or actress I should say. And that, of course, is Miss Holloway in this film, basically the opposite, or his James Bond girl in this film. And that, of course, is Lois Chills. Oh yeah, Lois Chills. Woo, Lois, woo. Lois Chills, woo. So if I'm not pronouncing that right, sorry. It's either Chills or Chilies or Chalets or something like that. But yeah, Lois Chills is an awesome actress, and I thought she was so great in this film. And I just really enjoyed her performance in it, and I thought she was probably one of my favorites, but not my number one, but definitely in my top 5 favorites James Bond girls so far in the film franchise. And I think she did just a great job. I loved her presence, I loved her demeanor, I loved her interactions with everyone in the film, from Roger Moore to, Michael Lonsdale. And I just thought that she really brought a different essence of a Bond girl versus anybody else I had seen, and I really enjoyed her in the film. Now, Lewis has been in a ton of films over the years. She's, a huge actress. But one film that I really enjoyed her in, and that wasn't a super huge part, but it was a very defining part in this awesome 1978 film. And that, of course, is a film called Coma. Yeah, Coma. Yeah, with Michael Douglas and Genevieve Bujold. Oh my God, that movie is such a fantastic film, based off of a Robin Cook book. Who was a actual medical doctor who wrote, books or made these novels, kind of like Stephen King, kind of, but all about the medical field and craziness going on in the medical field and stuff like that. And Coma was one of his first books that he wrote, and this is just a really great film. It's really intense, really awesome thriller with great performances by everyone involved. But Louis Chills actually plays kind of like the ground zero friend of Genevieve Bujold in the film, who ends up like becoming brain dead and getting into a coma at the hospital that Geneva works at, and kind of starts Geneva trying to figure out what's going on. And basically, like Lois's character, Lois's, she actually just went in for like a hysterectomy type of thing, or like a abortion basically, and this is what happened to her. And so, throughout the whole film, Geneva's trying to figure out what happened to her friend, but also what's happening to all the other patients, because Lois's character, she ends up in that giant room with all these bodies that are in comas, stuck in the suspension in this room and stuff like that throughout the film. And I just thought that Lewis did a great job of portraying this character, even though it wasn't a huge role. Still, I thought she did a great job. She looked like she was in a coma. She looked like she was, a person that was having, these types of issues. And I just thought that she was, a great character too as well. Even in the parts that she got to interact with, Genevieve Bujold in the film before she goes into coma was really intense and really good too as well. I just really enjoyed her in the film, and I thought that this is one of those underrated films again where, a great actress like Lois, I don't know why I keep wanting to call her Lois, basically, shines in and didn't get enough credit for that performance. Thought she was really good in this film. If you haven't seen Coma, definitely check it out too as well. And like I said, with her performance in the film of Moonraker, like I said, I just really enjoyed her. I thought she was a really great Bond girl, and I really enjoyed her performance alongside Roger Moore. And I think that, like I said, she's in my top 5 of my favorite Bond girls so far. So that brings me to the final actor I'm going to talk about that was in this film, and that is none other than the character Jaws himself, Mr. Richard Keel. Oh yeah, Richard Keel. Woo, Richard Keel. Yeah. So Richard Keel, you might recognize, of course, from The Spy Who Loved Me as the character Jaws as well. He also was in Silver Streak as a very similar character to Jaws, but was not Jaws. He also might recognize him from, of course, Happy Gilmore as one of Adam Sandler's former bosses that has a nail in his head. And always playing like henchman type of characters over the years. But I really liked Richard Keel as Jaws. I thought it was a great character. I thought it was a great addition to these couple films. And I thought that he just was like super awesome. I love that he had very few lines. I love that it was all very facial expressions for him, and what he was thinking, what his thoughts were, what he was going to do. And I thought Richard did a great job of portraying that and giving this really awesome like giant henchman guy that basically was indestructible basically. But a great movie that he was in that I really enjoyed him in was as followed. It's a 1974 Burt Reynolds film that actually got turned into a remake in 2005. And that, of course, is a film called The Longest Yard. Yes! The Longest Yard. Woo! Longest Yard. Woo! Oh my God. This movie is so awesome. Absolutely loved it. Loved the original, loved the remake. And the original is, a great film because, you have the amazing Burt Reynolds playing the main lead character. But then you have the awesome Richard Keel that's a part of this film and playing a former wrestler type of character, a bodybuilder, basically, in this film that's in jail that ends up becoming a part of the football team that Burt Reynolds is putting together. And, Burt Reynolds, basically is like a former quarterback that got caught shaving points and goes to jail. And he ends up having to put together this ragtag team of his, other inmates to battle the guards. And just Richard Keel's performance as that character was on point and super Richard Keel. And I just really enjoyed it. I loved the aspect he brought to it. I loved the character he brought to it. It was very similar to the wrestler in the remake that also plays kind of similar to the character that, you know, Richard Keel played in the 1974 version. And they both just, you know, Richard Keel just brought a realness to the character. It was very similar to his Jaws character, but at the same time, it was kind of, I think, the inspiration for what he ended up turning Jaws into. Because he was very silent type, but at the same time, he kicked butt, he had funny one-liners, and he just was a really fantastic just character in the entire film. He was a really great addition to that film. If you haven't seen The Longest Yard, definitely check it out for Richard Keel's performance and anyone that was involved with that film. It's a really great sports film and just a really good comedy as well. And I just always loved Richard Keel. I thought he was a great actor, a great person, and just his performance as Jaws has always been one of my favorite parts of the James Bond films. And I can't say, you know, enough good things about his character, and I just really enjoyed his character. And just a really well-rounded performance all in all. So what is Moonraker about? So basically this time out, James Bond has to basically save the world from a giant flying spaceship, basically, or a NASA station that they're trying to use to basically take over the world. And basically this time we get to see James Bond mostly in space, and it's just a really well-rounded, awesome film, you know. And, you know, James Bond saving the world as usual, that's what we get with this film. It's a really fantastic film, really enjoyable. I know a lot of people think this is, like, one of the worst ones, but I think it's a really fantastic film. Between its special effects and its acting and just the cast, it was just a very phenomenal film. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of my favorites. And it always will be, and I just think it's a fun ride. If you haven't seen Moonraker, definitely check it out. You can watch it on Tubi, you can watch it on Vudu, you can watch it on Peacock as well. Definitely check it out. It's worth the watch, people, and it's a great film. And this is the 11th film in the series, and I can't wait to talk more about the next James Bond film. So this was a really fantastic film. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, people. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, also thank you for subscribing. And if this is your first time here, or you have been here before, definitely check out anything old or newer that you might not have seen mine yet. And as always, people, check out my awesome links down below. If you enjoy my channel and want to show some support, definitely check out my links down below, either from my Patreon page or for the Awesome Horror Pack. Now, the Awesome Horror Pack is a great subscription service of horror films right to your door every month in either DVD or Blu-ray format. So definitely check that out, people. It's a great service, and they always have really great selection that come to you. I mean, some of the best I've ever seen. And then also, if you, like I said, if you enjoy my content and want to check out my Patreon page, where you can see outtakes, bloopers, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So definitely check that out too, people. And as always, catch you in the next one!